Good evening. Welcome to Northern Maine Productions. Well, it's that time of year again. We're getting on towards Christmas time here, and I thought maybe I'd take a look at some Christmas lights. I guess I've covered everything about like the C7s, C9s. I've covered specialty bulbs that General Electric made. The one thing that I have not covered really though are some of the miniature lights, and as you guys all know, starting probably in the 1950s probably, the imported Italian fairy lights became pretty popular. They were the precursor to the modern miniature lights that we've all enjoyed for the last 40 years. But General Electric was probably one of the first American manufacturers, if not the only American manufacturer, to get on board with the miniature lights. And they, in 1965, they came up with the Merry Midget sets. These lights, unlike everything previous that GE had done, these lights were not made in the States. They were made in Taiwan, expressly for the General Electric company, it says there. I don't actually have this set of lights. This was just a standard 20 volt, 20 light Merry Midget set. This box probably dates from about 1973. I loaned this set of lights to my mother probably about 12 years ago. And we put them on a homemade evergreen wreath that was outside of her door at her apartment, and I told her expressively when I gave them to her that I wanted them back when she was done at the end of that year. Well, you know how these old lights get once they're 40 years old, you know, and kind of weathered quite a bit. The colors were faded on them. They were actually still working, but she said to me later on, she's like, well, they were all faded really bad. They didn't have much color left in them. So when she took the wreath down at the end of Christmas that year, she just threw the whole thing, lights and all, right in the dumpster. She didn't realize how old the lights were. She called and wanted a short set of lights when she got that wreath, so I took her down these. So I guess that was my bad. So, but in 1970, I have got a set of lights here that I want to talk about. In 1970, GE came out with Merry Midget Fancies. As you can see here, I'm looking at Jeff Carter's Flickr page, and they were the newest lights. They had 4 different things. They had jingle lights, candle brights, Fleur De Lights, and Ballerina Lights. And the string that I have here is a set of 1970 Merry Midget Jingle lights. This is just a standard set of 20 Merry Midgets, and they've just put these metallic colored bells on them, and they call them jingle lights. These probably cost a little more money than the standard, than the standard set of lights, but that's a kind of a good look at them up close. They're like everything in the 1970s. They're all covered in glitter or metallic paint finish on them. These are quite nice. They look good when they're lit. Let's see if I can get these over here to this box. So as you can see, they are quite nice. They're nice and transparent to look at them. You can see the bulbs through them. And of course the bulb acts as the clapper on the on the bells. But if by chance you do have a set of these and you've never really used them, or you just kind of haphazardly decorate your tree with them or whatever, be very cautious not to lose, because these reflectors will come off of here. These little bell reflectors are probably made out of unobtainium nowadays, so if you happen to drop one of them on the floor and crush it and break it all to pieces, there's a pretty fair chance you're never going to find another one. So, you know, be careful not to lose them. You know, the Merry Midget set of lights themselves are a dime a dozen, but these little covers that are on there are probably irreplaceable. I actually looked around online a little bit in the last couple days and tried to find some of these lights, and I've not found any of these jingle lights at all. The Ballerina Lights, I think I found a set of them on eBay. The Ballerina Lights they're gold colored, as far as I can tell by looking at them. They might be multicolored bulbs in them, but they got a gold color ornament that surrounds each bulb. And apparently these Fleur De Lights, these little flower designs on here, must be painted with the same material that they painted these bells, because it says metallic color petals with bulb center to match really sparkles. The candle brights, just a they had a gold colored bulb in them. So yes, and now if you happen to have an issue with the bulbs in these type of lights, these have got a pretty unique base on them compared to most other sets. It's got a bimetal or a bipin base on it. Now these take a 6-volt bulb. I don't remember what the part number for the GE bulbs were, but it is possible to relamp these bases. The problem is the bulb is actually cemented into that base. So you're going to have to hold on to this base and kind of jerk this bulb around a little bit. I had to relamp one of these the other day. One of my blue ones was burned out, and luckily I was able to get the bulb out of there and not break the base all to pieces, because I do not have any of those bipin bases around here at all. So yeah, so basically, you know, this set of lights, I'm going to unplug these. It's just, as I think I said, that's just a standard Merry Midget socket bulbs. They have a feature on them here, like kind of like that the Noma C6 lights had. Now this set of lights, if I get this all opened up here and out of this bunch, is actually loop construction like old C6 lights were. Well, it also has this little bead on here so that you can pull the wires apart and get it over the branch. Then you pull the bead back up to clamp it on there. But that's a good little feature there. You know, I think I broke the tip off that bulb. No, I guess I didn't. Huh. But yes, if you have these, you know, take good care of them, because I am pretty sure that these were only made 1 or 2 years. They're very rare from what I can tell. And don't be afraid to get years of enjoyment out of them, because the bulbs, you can still find these bulbs pretty readily online. You got to look for the ones that fit a 20 light set. Replacement bulbs still shouldn't be too hard to find for these yet. But yeah, this GE was smart when they came out with these miniature lights. I think, you know, it was a good thing that they started as early as they did, around 1965, because by 1973, the energy crisis was on, and people were kind of in a big flurry to save and conserve energy, because, you know, obviously there was probably a lot of natural gas and coal-fired plants back then, and I don't really know what all happened, but it was a big disaster. I know there was a major shortage of gas and oil back then, which ironically was the year I was born. But yeah, by the mid 1970s, GE had reduced wattage on their larger bulbs, their C7 and C9 light bulbs, you know, as a way to try to meet new energy saver restrictions or laws that were put into effect. They were trying to do their part, and they did. It probably wasn't any big deal for them to reduce wattage, you know, like on C7s or C9 bulbs, but the worst thing for GE back then was they had to actually change the coatings on their bulbs, because they had that fired on ceramic finish on them that they developed way back in the early 50s, and they used it clear through the mid 70s. And what happened was, after they reduced the wattage of the bulbs, that finish on them was not transparent enough for the lower wattage bulbs, so they had to redevelop exterior paint coatings to put on them so that the bulb would be transparent enough to be bright with the lower wattage filament in them. So, you know, it was inevitable. You know, the miniature lights took over big time by the late 70s. I mean, my mother switched over our trees probably by 1981, probably. She stopped putting C7s on the tree and went to miniature lights. And I'm sure people saved a lot on their electric bills too by doing that, because these do use considerably less power than a C7 or a C9. But anyways, I just figured I would take a minute and showcase this probably very rare set of lights. From what I can tell, this set of lights is probably extremely rare. I'm probably going to try to keep better track of them. These things oftentimes kind of get tossed in the back of the drawer in there in my big storage cabinet, and don't always make, you know, come out every year. I try to typically use that set of lights on something maybe every couple of years or so. But well, anyways, I guess that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed to look at these very rare General Electric Merry Midget Jingle lights. You all have a good evening. Bye bye.